Started. All right.
Hmm. Jeff where? Walter's coming. It's taking a minute though.
I might have let in the founder by accident.
Okay.
Hey, Richard, just give us a second here.
Yeah, we were waiting for Josh to join us here. Here he comes. And Jason, fine. What's the. All right. Is he a new angel? I don't know Jason. Do I?
I think he's
I'm
in.
gonna I'm gonna quickly search the thing. His name is nowhere in the sheet.
Okay. So,
Josh,
and
do you know? They're all Josh. Josh, do you know Jason Fine?
Jason, what was the last
fine.
name?
Fine, Fine.
No, doesn't sound familiar.
I don't know what to do with him. I'm gonna chat with him, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are using their kids' computers and stuff.
Could be a spy.
Could be a
Very,
spy.
very true.
That's most likely, definitely.
No, no spies, please.
All right. Let me just.
But if it's a spy from Medtronic or Philips or GE, please let them in. We would love that spy.
Cool. All right, Josh, you want to take it away? You want me to do it? How do you guys want to do this?
Let's do it. If everybody's ready, let's hop right in. Richard, thanks so much for joining us. On the call tonight will be some members of the Sierra Angels following up. We'll also record this to share with the rest of our team. And to give you an idea of how this will go, we'll have a 30-minute kind of Q&A session here, and then we'll send the recording out. In addition, we'll create a shared Google Sheet for all of us where we can kind of asynchronously ask you some follow-up questions that we can kind of ping back and forth throughout the course of the week. That'll ideally keep the email back and forth between us to a minimum. So to kick it off, if you could just restate the details of your raise to get us started.
Sure. Yeah. Just as a reminder, we're delivering operating room quality respiratory profile to the patient bedside. And by doing that, we intercept these ugly, expensive events, rescue events, codes, ICU transfers, and sometimes patient deaths. The terms of the raise, I'm going to share screen if that's all right. Probably make it easier on all. Are right here. It's a 3 million Series A with 1x preference, 15 million pre-money. We have 2.2 of that 3 in the bank closed. So we're seeking 800 to finish the A round. And in the last couple of months, we've had some groups very similar to yours invest. Sacramento, Desert, Sandhill, and Swan.
Fantastic. Okay. And then I'll start us off with a question and then we'll kind of just go around the horn to whoever wants to open it up. But my question is regarding the who will be the decision maker and the buyer. What's the explicit ROI case for the CFO signs off on? Not necessarily a clinician, but the CFO.
Right. So the buyer, yeah, I've been selling into this environment for a lifetime. So the way the process works is you get a departmental champion, right? That's a key opinion leader, usually a physician. In this space would require a physician nurse tandem, right? Um, and then that champion buys the clinical value proposition. Then they would take it to a value analysis committee, which is a multifunctional group to decide on the medical economics. And I think the answer to that question, Josh, is summarized by this study done at Dartmouth. Let me make sure it's crystal clear. This was not done with our device. This was done prior to our device, but it's a good indicator. It's a good pointer. And Dartmouth put pulse oximetry and capnography on every single patient in the post-orthopedic surgery. And you can see the savings that they generated. Completely an academic exercise because the prospect of putting pulse ox and capnography on every single patient is zero, right? There's not a PACU in the United States that is using capnography on all their patients. And the reason is it's too big, it's too complex, it's too expensive. But this was a great indicator. This is a great leading indicator for us. We can provide more information than what Dartmouth had here. So that's our value proposition to the value analysis committee.
Perfect. Thank you.
And just as an FYI, we won a $500,000 grant from NIH in September, and it's going in front of their IRB like today or tomorrow. And we're doing this study at Ohio State now with those NIH funds.
Fantastic. But that will open up to the other angels.
So, Richard, I have a follow-up question on that. The Ohio State clinical trial, is that to get more data, to get another FDA approval? I think in your presentation you mentioned there's another FDA approval you need to get. Is that it?
Yes, but the two are not linked. So we
Okay.
did this clinical study, not a clinical trial. We did this clinical study at Ohio State where we proved our advance notice capability. The trial that I just mentioned, the NIH grant we won, is a trial, right? It's an interventional trial where the physicians will see our data, they will hear our alarms, and they
Okay.
will take action on that, and we'll be measuring those medical economic outcomes. So,
Oh, okay.
but that's separate from the FDA clearance. That data is not really being used for any FDA clearance. That's being used for evidence because people who buy need evidence. What we'll be submitting to the FDA in the spring is our device in a nasal cannula. It's currently cleared in a supplemental oxygen mask. It's not cleared
Oh, I
in a
see.
nasal cannula. And that's the next thing we need to get cleared.
Is the cannula the cheaper version, even cheaper than the mask version, or what?
Yeah, it's about the same. Well, for us, it will be the same price. The plastic, the disposable without our sensor,
Uh-huh.
um, they're all commodity plastic products, so it's inexpensive.
Yeah, right.
But for us, whether it's a nasal cannula or a mask, will be the same price.
Okay. And then for the product, a monitor is required for the entire solution to work, right? You call that the razor, and the razor blade is your sensors, right? So you haven't talked about the monitor. What is it? How much is it? And does it need FDA clearance?
Right. Um, so we don't talk about the monitor because quite frankly, the monitor is pretty boring.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
it's just
fancy voltmeter, right?
it's a display, right? We're all looking at monitors right now. So
Yeah.
we have no desire to be in the monitor business, And our expectation is that long term, we will be out of the monitor business because our data, instead of flowing to our monitor, will flow to the hospital monitors,
Right.
Medtronic, Philips,
But for
GE.
that to happen, you need to get the monitor makers, Medtronics, whoever, to update their software to utilize your TV MV data and display them and alerts and all kinds of stuff, right? So that's kind of a lot of work.
So yes to everything you've said, which is why we start with our own monitor, because if I call Medtronic up and said, "Hey, we want to integrate to your monitors," they would,
Yeah,
tell me to take a hike. Um, so we start with ours, and what happens is when we are successful and there's, 50 of our monitors at Ohio
yeah. When there's
State.
demand, and they'll make it, right? Yeah, I mean they'll do the work
Exactly.
to
And
implement it.
and all of those monitors basically have plug-in cards. So they have a card for Masimo pulse oximetry and a card for capnography. Similarly, they would have a card for Linshom, that would be co-developed and that would teach that monitor how to display our data.
Right. So what is your monitor right now, the Linshom monitor that you're using in Ohio State and the initial implementations?
You're looking at it on your screen, right? If am I sharing?
Just an iPad or something? Or
Do you see it on the screen?
yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's made by a company um, called CyberMed on the West Coast. It's a 15-inch monitor, and it's FDA cleared. It's CE marked. I mean, we picked
Oh,
this
okay.
monitor because it had already gone through all the electronics, EMC testing, safety testing, and had all the marks that we need.
Right. So how much is that? Because that's a per bed device, right? Each bed needs their own monitor.
That's correct. So that's
So,
a per bed device. This plus cables and everything, it costs me about $2,000 to
okay.
set up a bed. So
Right.
10
Okay.
beds, 20,000, properly capitalized. We have no intention of selling this hardware. That sends us into the capital acquisition cycle of the hospital.
Right. So it's
And
free to the hospital on a
well,
commitment to buy sensors?
yeah, and exactly. And instead of paying $30 for a sensor, we'll charge them 33. And when that $3 premium pays off the hardware, it'll go away.
Oh, got it. Okay, makes sense. All right.
But we want to start revenue fast, so we don't want to be in the capital acquisition business.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Okay, good.
The money's in the sensor.
All right. One last question. I'll yield my time to other guys. Is the IP 100% owned by the company and not licensed from founders or somebody else, or where we at with the IP situation?
Yeah, it's 100% owned by the company and is 100% assigned
Okay,
to the
good. All right.
company
Got
by
it.
every individual who's ever touched it.
Got it. Very good.
Every
Okay.
subcontractor, everybody we've worked with has signed a signed an assignment agreement.
Right. Right. Okay.
Nice. I have a follow-up question on the FDA clearance. I noticed on that slide you list another Linshom device as your predicate device. So was there a prior product in iteration before the current face mask? Can you talk a bit about the product history
Yeah,
inside this?
yeah, great question. So this K190,734 on the bottom was our first clearance. And the predicate for that was the REDE, REDE mask for respiratory rate and a device called respiratory motion for tidal volume. And because we have two sets of parameters that you can't get in one device, it just doesn't exist. We had to have a predicate and a subject predicate. And FDA, it was difficult. It was difficult to get them to see that. That first clearance took us over a year. Um, but it was done intentionally as a strategic clearance to get ourselves as our predicate, because 240271 then took about 8 months and 250093 took about 6 months. So we kind of got that cadence going, and we think the nasal cannula will fall right in line.
Okay, so you'll continue using your own devices as your predicate for your next.
Absolutely. That was the whole reason we got 190734 cleared. Because
Smart.
quite honestly, the 190734 product was not marketable. It would have been a catastrophic failure, right? It was just not ready for prime time.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions?
Since we're asking about FDA, just an FYI, we submitted for breakthrough device designation a few weeks ago, a month ago. We got our first batch of FDA questions back, and we responded to them on January 31st. So we are in the process of prosecuting breakthrough device. It doesn't guarantee we'll get it, but we're going for it.
So, Richard, can you take us a little bit deeper into the pricing model? Because you said you don't want to, get into this capital intensive, part of the hospital. You've, given us some examples on a 10-bed hospital. Can you just do a little deeper dive on how the pricing would work, how that contractual arrangement would play out once you got all the clinical approvals?
Yeah, I can. If you bear with me, and I should have had this open ahead of time, sorry. Okay, I'm going to show you a really ugly Excel spreadsheet. Are you looking at Excel?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Remember, you asked for this. So here is like the bottoms up build, basically. And if we just start in the upper left-hand corner with this gray box, this is like the really simplified version. So we interviewed a couple dozen physicians in the 3 target departments: emergency room, PACU, post-anesthesia care, and general care floor. And we asked them, how often would you use this? And they gave us a number, right? How many patients per shift, whatever. And we took their number and we cut it in half. So we then run the math across. Sorry about that. We run the math across based on, how many shifts that department runs, how many sensors would be used, and you basically get a number of sensors per bed per year and revenue per bed per year. So if you take this column M here, and it's, let's take the PACU, right? That's where we're going to start. $58,000. 10 beds is $500,000. 20 beds is $1 million, et cetera, et cetera. So the model in its simplest form is right here, and that's how it scales. But you were asking about the pricing. So we've done the pricing and sensitized it at $15, $20, $25, $30 per disposable unit. And you can see based on this build with very few customers. I mean, the number of customers we're talking about here, let me get to the cumulative line, is not a lot of customers. It scales and builds in pretty dramatic fashion. So if we said $25, it's building very aggressively. And this is at about 85, 90% gross margin.
Okay.
And in like a deeper due diligence dive, we could go through this cell by cell, because that's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Can you talk a little bit more about the sales motion, Richard? I know that you're talking about not building a sales force or growth of distributors. Can you just talk a little bit more about what that looked like?
Yeah, we'll have we'll have sales support, right? So we're gonna have a VP of sales and marketing, but it won't be the classic build of, hiring 10 reps and then hiring 10 more, and then, one gets promoted to a manager. Um, I've done that with BD, J&J, Abbott, and 3 startups. And it's a veritable black hole of cash. And even if you're really good at it, you're probably 50% successful, right? You probably have about a 50% sales rep fatality rate built in there. So our intent is to use organizations that already have that structure built here in column 3. AirLife, Intersurgical, that's probably a European play, Sarnova, Teleflex, Medline, um, excuse me, and even a couple over here in the 4th column get into the distribution side of things. Neon Coden, Baxter, Draeger, Mindray could all enter into that space. AirLife, of course. Um, so our intent is in column 2, when we soft launch at these 5 sites, we're going to sign them up under what's called a registry. They're also referred to as phase 4 clinical trial sites, right? Or other people would call them post-market clinical studies. And it just allows us to continue to collect clinical data, that efficacy data. And then when we have more data, we can accelerate more sales. And we'll use that data to arm one or more of these distributors to sell the product. We'll have, a marketing person, a sales management, distribution management person behind that, as well as tech service, and uh, and hardware equipment service to support this effort.
Can you just talk me through what one of those contracts might look like with one of the distributors?
Yeah, when I was at CSA Medical, we used a couple of distributors, and they're typically going to take 30 to 35% out of the gross margin to sell your product. So coming in the door at 85% gross margin gives us the ability to do that. And quite frankly, I think it'll be less expensive using an organization like this than trying to do it ourselves.
Perfect. Thank you.
You
What,
mentioned go ahead.
for this 3 million you're looking to raise, how are you going to use the funds?
So the funds will be used in column 2 right here, is basically to get these 5 sites on their feet and up and running. And no surprise, these 5 sites are where our advisors are, and those advisors are handpicked as kind of the evangelical leads of respiratory monitoring. These people here don't need to be convinced that.
Well, then what is the money actually used for if you've already got these 5 sites nailed down? And so how's it being allocated? What are
Well,
they doing with the money?
we
What are
have to
you doing with the money?
Yeah, we have to put the hardware in their site. So if you remember the previous discussion, that $2,000 per bed. So
Oh,
if
so these sites are not paying customers, they're just test sites?
they're not going to pay for the hardware, they will pay for the razor blade, the disposable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I need to we have to prime the pump. And the only way I can prime the pump is to put my device by 20 beds at Ohio State and
Yeah.
30 beds at Wake Forest. So that's my upfront cost, as well as the personnel, a technical person to train, babysit, troubleshoot. These things take some hand holding first days.
And remind us again, where are you manufacturing the sensors?
Yeah, so we are manufacturing the sensors at Harbor Designs, which is local to me in Baltimore. They have made all of our sensors for our clinical studies thus far. So we've treated about 800 patients between Ohio State and University of Maryland. That's probably about 850-ish sensors. And we've had one failure.
And fast forward 3 years, 4 years, you scaled up based on, your Excel spreadsheet there. These guys have the capacity to manufacture for you.
They do. They do absolutely. There is potential that we could outrun them. Great problem to have. And we've met with Jabil, Jabil. Jabil's the largest medical device manufacturer in the world. They make for J&J, Medtronic, everybody. Factories all over China and Mexico and Canada. And they could make this device for sure and less expensively, but they're not going to touch anything until we get to lot sizes of about 10,000.
But wouldn't you then be confronted with some of the issues? Again, I'm not familiar with the tariff situation for medical devices, but given some of the current, political issues going on with tariffs, would that impact your cost of goods sold?
It might, yes. It's very, very possible. And if that was the case, then, we'll do the analysis then and figure it out. Quite honestly, well before we get to those volumes, we're north of 10 million in ARR, and that's when I expect we'll be seriously talking about exit discussions with these folks in column 4, that I'll put that back up. So I think we're talking about a problem that Medtronic is going to fix, not us.
Okay. Thank you.
Nathaniel?
Hi, Richard. And I was on a call earlier, so if I say asking questions have been already answered, I apologize. I remember on the call you said hospitals already do this in the ICUs. That device, how much does that cost if I wanted to get like an ICU respiratory monitoring system?
Yeah, so the ICU or the operating room typically realize these are patients that have a tube down their throat. So these are fully intubated patients. That device is anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000.
Okay. And does that only work when you're fully intubated? Is this a technology difference where it requires invasive procedure to work, or what?
Yeah, there is a form of capnography that doesn't require that. It's called side stream. They put a mask on the patient, and then there's like a little tube that comes off the mask with suction on it, and it's pulling the gas that you exhale out, or a little sample of it, and it's measuring the CO2 of that sample. But that device is just simply not used outside of the OR or the ICU. And that's precisely why we're not going there, right? That's a served market. We want to play where there's blue sky, white space, and go to where respiratory monitoring is absent.
Yeah.
It's funny, I mentioned earlier before you got on, Nathaniel, we just answered a set of questions to the FDA because we submitted for breakthrough device designation. And they were asking the same questions like, well, you have to show us data versus capnography because that's the standard of care in the PACU, which is categorically false. We have boatloads of market research data, but to confirm that, we went out and we polled 34 hospitals. About 2/3 of them are teaching institutions: Hopkins, Harvard, Cornell, Presbyterian, and zero of those polled hospitals use capnography outside of the OR or the ICU. It's a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah. And is that because it's difficult to use, or because they haven't thought of it, or because it's cost prohibitive?
They've certainly thought of it, but it's too expensive and it's too difficult.
Yeah.
The nurse in the operating room or the intensive care unit is not the same nurse that's on the general care floor or in the PACU. It's two dramatically different levels of training.
Yeah. And then on the price point for the disposable units for your product, again, if we've answered this already, I apologize, and I'm happy to withdraw the question. But how did you come up with that being the right number, right? You know, it's not $2, it's not $200, it's say somewhere around $20. Is there
Right.
other products you pointed at? Is there been discussions? Is that the price that these early test sites are saying is reasonable? Just try to understand that pricing model.
Yeah, good question. So it's not $2 because it costs us about $3 to make it. So that would be bad. So it's around $30 because the existing psychological mark for these disposable products is in the low 20s. So if you look at what people pay for Masimo pulse oximetry disposables or Medtronic capnography disposables, it's around that $18 to $22, right? And the reason that we're shooting higher than that is because we deliver a dramatically higher level of information. If you remember from the presentation, the differentiator is tidal volume, right? And we're the only device on the planet Earth that can get tidal volume to the patient bedside.
Perfect.
And that's
Richard, I'm gonna hop in and we had just hit time. We don't want to go over too much, but
no worries.
I think you nailed it. But thank you so much. As I said at the top, we will kind of get this recorded, get it out to the rest of the angels. We will get that shared Google sheet shared with you, and then look out for questions there, and then our team will also follow up. So thank you so much, and thank you again for coming down to Vegas. It was a pleasure to meet you in person.
It was fun. I got a few hours out in Red Rocks on Friday, so it was a good time.
And Richard,
Great.
thanks for helping out with the tech issues.
Yeah,
Really
that's it.
appreciate it.
My bill's coming.
Oh, okay. Could be steep. Thank you.
Cheers.
Take-
Thank you.
Take care.